Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. It was a chilly autumn evening in New York City. The bustling streets were lit by soft golden lights, but in the corner of a quiet cafe, Dr. Adam Ellis sat alone, lost in thought. A talented surgeon and renowned for his charity work, Adam had a life that many admired. His white coat was not just a symbol of his profession, but of his relentless drive to help others, to make a difference. Yet, beneath his professional demeanor, there was a sorrow that had been haunting him for months. The tragic death of his wife had left a wound that seemed impossible to heal, and so he buried himself in his work, in his charity. But no matter how many lives he saved, no matter how many people he helped, that ache inside never went away. Adam's hands trembled slightly as he set his coffee cup down. He hadn't realized how long he'd been staring out the window, lost in his own world. The city seemed to rush around him, but it felt as though he were in a bubble, separate, alone, disconnected from the life he once had. The sound of the cafe door opening snapped him out of his trance. He glanced up briefly, his gaze briefly meeting the eyes of a woman who had just walked in. She wasn't particularly striking at first glance, but there was something in the way she carried herself, something unassuming and genuine, that caught his attention. She walked up to the counter, ordered a coffee, and turned toward the seating area, scanning the room for a place to sit. Adam's eyes lingered on her for a moment longer than he expected, but then he quickly looked away, returning his focus to his phone. He couldn't afford distractions. His schedule was tight, his responsibilities never-ending. Yet, a strange feeling crept over him, a sense of something, or someone, pulling at him. He shook his head, trying to focus. He didn't need distractions. But then, as if on cue, the woman glanced around the cafe again and, to Adam's surprise, started walking toward him. His heart skipped a beat. She hesitated for a moment, then spoke softly, her voice almost nervous. Adam blinked, clearly taken off guard. "Kevin?" He looked at her, confused, and for a moment, he didn't know how to respond. His thoughts were a blur. But then, he smiled faintly, trying to mask the confusion. She chuckled awkwardly, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. Adam found himself smiling, a little more genuinely this time. There was something about her that made him feel a little less isolated, a little more human. Adam raised an eyebrow, his curiosity piqued. He wanted to ask her why she thought he was someone named Kevin, but instead, he just nodded, the awkwardness hanging in the air. There was something endearing about the way she fumbled through the situation, like she wasn't trying to impress anyone, just being herself. She seemed to relax at his response, her posture easing as she took a seat across from him. They exchanged a brief, yet genuine smile. It was a simple interaction, but for Adam, it felt like a spark, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Clara took a sip of her coffee, her eyes flicking nervously to her phone. Adam couldn't help but notice how she spoke so candidly, how she didn't seem to care about appearances or labels. In a way, it made him feel more at ease, as though he could be himself too. Clara smiled, her eyes brightening a little at the compliment. Adam hesitated, but only for a moment. He wasn't used to sharing much about himself, especially not his personal life. But something about Clara made him want to talk. He found himself opening up more than he had in months. Clara picked up on the shift in his tone and leaned in slightly, her voice softening. Adam's eyes flickered with a mix of sadness and reluctance, but he quickly shook it off. He wasn't ready to talk about it. Not yet, not with her. Clara nodded, understanding more than he expected. There was a silence between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt natural, almost like the beginning of something new. As they sat there, exchanging small talk and tentative glances, Adam realized something. He hadn't felt this comfortable with anyone in a long time. And even though their meeting had started with a mix-up, maybe it was exactly what he needed. The evening went on, the noise of the cafe blending with their laughter, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Adam allowed himself to simply be present in the moment. After their first unexpected meeting, Adam found himself thinking about Clara more than he cared to admit. The way she had spoken so freely, with no pretensions or masks, had caught him off guard. He had spent so many months, maybe even years, hiding behind his work, his charity, his need to fix things for others. But Clara, she wasn't asking for anything. She was just there. She didn't need him to save her, and maybe, just maybe, that was what made her so different from everyone else he knew. He hadn't expected to meet anyone who could make him feel like he wasn't alone in the world again, but Clara did just that. Still, he tried to push the thought away. He couldn't get distracted. He couldn't afford to be distracted. The following day, Adam arrived early at the hospital. The usual rhythm of the clinic was like a comfortable routine, but today, something felt off. He couldn't quite shake the memory of Clara's nervous smile, or the way she looked at him with genuine curiosity, as if she was truly interested in hearing about him, not just the professional facade he wore. As he scrubbed his hands, preparing for a full day of back-to-back surgeries, he tried to focus. There were lives to save, and he had a job to do. Yet, in the back of his mind, he kept hearing her voice, asking him questions, sharing small details about her life. It was impossible to ignore. Later that afternoon, Adam received a text from his assistant, Claire, about an upcoming charity event he had been asked to attend. It was for a cause he supported, but he'd been avoiding public events like these for some time. His assistant reminded him, "This is important, Dr. Ellis. The foundation needs you there." His thumb hovered over his phone screen for a moment before he sighed, reluctantly replying, "I'll be there." As the evening approached, Adam found himself standing in front of his wardrobe, staring at the options hanging before him. He didn't really care what he wore. A black tie, a crisp suit, and he'd blend in with the rest. It wasn't about him. But as he reached for his jacket, something stirred inside him, a strange sense of anticipation. He hadn't felt this before, not about a charity event or about anything in a long time. He thought about Clara. What had it been about her that lingered in his thoughts? He shook his head. It didn't matter. He had a duty to the people who depended on him, and his personal life would have to wait. Clara, on the other hand, wasn't sure what had drawn her back to the gala that night. She wasn't in the habit of attending fancy events, but there was something about Adam, something unspoken between them, that she couldn't shake off. She had been honest with him about her life, her struggles, and how she had ended up in this job, but it was clear that Adam had his walls up, hiding something much deeper. It intrigued her. She found herself thinking about him during the days that followed, replaying the conversation over and over in her mind. And so, when the invitation came to her inbox about the gala, she decided to attend, knowing it might be her only chance to see him again. The event was held in one of New York's most prestigious venues, the Grand Ballroom glimmering with gold and crystal chandeliers. It was the kind of place where everyone seemed to be either selling something or pretending to be someone they weren't. Adam stood in the corner, his usual position, watching the room from a distance. His heart wasn't in it. He wasn't here to network or mingle. He was here because it was expected of him. But when he turned around, there she was. Clara, standing at the edge of the room, looking more out of place than he felt. Her dress was simple, but it fit her well, and her eyes held a kind of quiet determination as she scanned the room. Their eyes met across the room, and for a moment, the noise of the crowd seemed to fade away. Adam felt his chest tighten, the walls he had carefully built around himself beginning to crumble with the realization that he couldn't ignore this feeling, this connection, any longer. He made his way toward her, his movements deliberate. But his mind was racing. What was he doing? He hadn't planned on this. He wasn't supposed to feel this way. Clara saw him approaching and felt a rush of nerves. She had told herself she wouldn't make it obvious, wouldn't let on that she had been thinking about him. But there he was, looking every bit the part of the professional doctor and philanthropist. And yet, there was something else about him, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. As he reached her, he gave her a small, genuine smile. Clara smiled back, her nerves easing just a little. "Neither did I," she replied, laughing softly. "But here we are, I guess." For a brief moment, they stood in silence, the air between them charged with a quiet tension. Neither of them spoke, but there was an unspoken understanding. Adam wasn't sure what to do next. He wasn't used to letting people in, especially not like this. But there was something about Clara that made him want to try. As they spoke, the conversation shifted from the event to more personal matters. Clara shared more about her life, her dreams, and her struggles. Adam listened carefully, his eyes locked on hers. For the first time in a long time, He found himself truly listening to someone, not just hearing words. She spoke with such honesty, with no pretensions, and for a brief moment, Adam felt like he could be himself too. They were both standing on the same ground, sharing something real. But before they could talk further, the night continued around them, and Adam felt the pull of his responsibilities. As he excused himself, Clara couldn't help but feel a sense of disappointment. She hadn't expected to get close to him, not really. But somehow, tonight felt different. Maybe it was the way he looked at her, or maybe it was the way she felt seen for the first time in a long time. Whatever it was, she wasn't ready to let it go. Adam left the gala early, his thoughts consumed by Clara. He hadn't expected this connection, this feeling. But as he sat in the back of his car, staring out at the city lights, he realized that this might be the beginning of something he hadn't prepared for. The following week, Adam couldn't shake the memory of Clara. Despite the professional detachment he had maintained in the past, something about their conversation at the gala lingered in his mind. It wasn't just her candidness that caught him off guard, but the ease with which she seemed to see through the layers he had so carefully built around himself. She made him feel human again, something he hadn't felt in a long time. His mind raced as he sat in his office, staring at the pile of paperwork in front of him. He couldn't concentrate. His thoughts kept drifting back to her smile, her quiet strength. It had been so long since he'd allowed himself to connect with someone, yet Clara had somehow done it without even trying. Adam tried to focus on his work, but the phone call from his assistant Claire snapped him out of his thoughts. "Dr. Ellis, we've just received a donation from the Mason Foundation," she said, her voice bright with excitement. "They're asking if you could come to their annual gala tomorrow night. It's for a new project they're funding, and they specifically requested you to attend." Adam sighed, rubbing his temples. Another gala. He didn't want to go. He didn't want to face the same fake smiles, the endless networking. But there was no way out. He couldn't turn down the Mason Foundation. They were one of the biggest contributors to his charity work. "All right, I'll go," he said, already regretting the decision. He glanced at the calendar on his desk. Another event, another obligation. But then his phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text message from Clara. "Hey, I hope this isn't weird, but I saw you're attending the gala tomorrow night. I'm going too. Maybe we could catch up." Adam's heart skipped a beat. Clara. He hadn't expected to hear from her again so soon. His thumb hovered over the phone screen, unsure of what to type. After a moment, he responded, "I'll be there. Let's catch up." He didn't know why he was so eager to see her again, but he felt an unfamiliar excitement building inside him. The next evening, Adam arrived at the gala feeling strangely out of place. The grand ballroom was filled with people in tuxedos and glittering dresses, all pretending to enjoy themselves, all with their own agendas. Adam was used to this. But tonight, something was different. As he entered the room, his eyes immediately found Clara. She was standing near the entrance, chatting with someone, but when their eyes met, everything else seemed to blur. She smiled, a soft, knowing smile that made his chest tighten. She walked toward him, her confidence clear, but there was a quiet warmth about her that made him feel at ease. "I didn't expect to see you here so soon," Clara said, her tone light, but teasing. "I thought I'd get a chance to catch my breath before facing you again." Adam chuckled softly, the sound foreign to his ears. "I could say the same about you. I didn't expect you to show up so soon either." He paused, realizing how awkward the conversation had started. "It's nice to see you again, though." Clara's smile deepened, and for a moment, Adam felt like he was talking to someone who wasn't just a charity volunteer, but someone he could truly relate to. They spent the next few minutes talking about the event, the people in attendance, and the usual small talk, but Adam found himself becoming increasingly distracted by the way Clara carried herself. She didn't play by the rules of this world. Her words weren't weighed down by the pretensions Adam was so used to. She was refreshing, and that was when it happened. The moment Adam realized that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't just a one-time connection. Maybe he didn't need to hide behind his work or his charity. Maybe he could have something real. As the night went on, the gala progressed, and Adam and Clara found themselves on the balcony, away from the noise and the chatter of the ballroom. Clara leaned against the railing, her eyes scanning the city lights below. Adam stood beside her, unsure of what to say. They were no longer surrounded by the faceless crowd. It was just the two of them. Adam's breath caught in his throat as he realized how comfortable he felt. Comfortable with her. comfortable with someone who didn't need anything from him. It's nice, isn't it? Clara said, breaking the silence. Being away from all of this. Away from the expectations. Adam nodded slowly, taking in her words. I don't know if I'm used to it, he admitted. This world, it's not really mine. It's like I'm playing a part. Clara turned to face him, her expression soft. I think we all play a part. But the real question is, are you happy playing it? Adam hesitated, his thoughts a jumbled mess. I don't know, he admitted quietly. I used to think that helping others was enough. But now, I'm not so sure. Clara stepped closer to him, her voice gentle but firm. Maybe it's time you figured that out. You don't have to keep pretending. You can do more than just be the hero. You deserve to be happy too, Adam. Her words hit him harder than he expected. He'd been so focused on helping others that he'd never taken the time to think about himself. And now, standing here with Clara, he realized just how much he had been hiding from his own heart. The night ended too soon. Adam found himself walking out of the gala with Clara, the city streets illuminated by the glow of the streetlights. It felt like the beginning of something, but Adam wasn't sure what that something was yet. All he knew was that for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel so alone. As they reached the door of the building, Clara turned to him with a small smile. I guess I'll see you around, Adam. Her words hung in the air, and Adam couldn't help but feel a flutter in his chest. Yeah, I think you will. He watched as she walked away, her figure blending into the night, and for the first time in a long while, Adam didn't feel like he was just going through the motions. The days that followed the gala felt like a blur to Adam. He found himself distracted, his mind constantly drifting back to Clara. He hadn't expected to feel this way, this sense of longing and curiosity about someone he had only just met. But Clara had a way of making him question everything he thought he knew about himself. She saw through the walls he'd carefully built, and yet, she never judged him. She had offered him something no one else had in years, a glimpse of what it could feel like to be truly seen. And for the first time in a long time, Adam couldn't ignore it. He threw himself into his work, trying to push the thoughts of Clara out of his mind. But every time he closed his eyes, there she was. Her smile, the way she laughed, the way she seemed to understand him without needing to know the details. He couldn't help but think about the conversation they had on the balcony, about the way she had told him he deserved to be happy too. That was a thought he had never allowed himself to entertain. He had spent so much of his life trying to fix others that he had forgotten what it meant to take care of himself. But Clara had made him realize that maybe he was missing something important. As the week went on, Adam decided to call her. He had no idea why he was doing it. He had never been the type to reach out to someone like this, but he felt like he had to. Maybe it was because she had made him feel something real, something he hadn't felt in a long time. He took a deep breath and typed out a message. Hey Clara, I've been thinking about our conversation. Would you want to meet up for coffee sometime? He stared at the screen, his heart pounding in his chest. It felt like a leap of faith. He pressed send, unsure of what to expect. Clara didn't take long to respond. I'd like that, she wrote. A simple response, but it was enough to make Adam smile. He couldn't remember the last time he had felt so excited about something so simple. They made plans to meet at a quiet cafe in the city, a place away from the glittering world of galas and charity events. Adam arrived early, his heart racing with anticipation. He had no idea what this meeting would bring, but he was ready to find out. When Clara arrived, she was wearing a simple jacket and jeans, a stark contrast to the formal gowns he was used to seeing her in at charity events. She looked more relaxed, more like the woman he had met that night on the balcony. As she approached, Adam stood up, trying to hide his nerves. Hey, Clara greeted him with a warm smile, her eyes bright. I'm glad we could finally do this. Me too, Adam replied, his voice softer than he intended. He gestured for her to sit, and they ordered their coffee. The conversation began casually, as if they were old friends catching up. But beneath the surface, there was something deeper, an unspoken understanding, a connection that neither of them could deny. As they talked, Adam found himself opening up in ways he hadn't expected. Clara listened attentively, her eyes never leaving his face as he shared bits of his life that he had never told anyone. About his late wife, his grief, and how he had lost himself in his work. Clara didn't interrupt. She didn't try to fix him. She just listened. It was a feeling Adam hadn't experienced in a long time. He realized then that he hadn't just been craving human connection. He had been craving someone who could understand his pain, without making him feel weak. Clara, for her part, was equally honest. She talked about her own struggles, how she had been a single mother, how she had worked multiple jobs to make ends meet, and how she had never really felt like she belonged in the circle she found herself in. She shared how she had learned to find strength in the simplest moments, in her son's laughter or in the quiet comfort of a good book. Adam was struck by her resilience. Despite everything she had been through, she was kind and genuine, qualities he hadn't seen in many people. As the conversation wore on, Adam began to feel something shift inside him. Clara wasn't just a woman he had met at a gala. She was someone who was helping him see himself in a new light. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't just a doctor, a charity worker, or someone with a past to hide. He was simply Adam, a man who had been lost and was slowly finding his way again. As they finished their coffee, Clara stood up and smiled at him. "I'm glad we did this," she said softly. "I think you're starting to see it too." Adam blinked, confused for a moment. "See what?" he asked. "That you deserve more than just helping others. You deserve to help yourself. You deserve to be happy, Adam," she said, her words quiet but powerful. Adam watched her as she walked out of the cafe, and for the first time in a long time, he wasn't just looking at the world through a lens of responsibility and duty. He was looking at it with new eyes that saw the possibility of something more. As the days passed, Adam couldn't stop thinking about Clara and the way she had helped him open up. He didn't know where this would lead, but for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was on the verge of something real. As the weeks went by, Adam couldn't help but feel like something inside him was shifting. Clara had become a steady presence in his life, and every time he saw her, he felt a little more at ease, a little less burdened by the weight of his own grief. Their conversations became more frequent, each one peeling back another layer of himself that he had long kept hidden. He found himself looking forward to their meetings, whether it was grabbing coffee at the same quiet cafe or walking around the city, talking about life, love, and the things they never had the chance to share with anyone else. It felt easy, effortless, like they had known each other for years. But despite the comfort he found in Clara's company, Adam still struggled with something deeper. He had been so focused on his work and the charity he ran, that he had neglected to focus on his own life. And now, with Clara, he found himself wondering if it was too late to change. He had kept himself so isolated for so long that the thought of truly opening up to someone, letting them see all of him, the good, the bad, and the ugly, felt like a monumental leap. He wasn't sure if he was ready for that. But Clara seemed to see him for who he really was, and that terrified him. One evening, after another long day at the hospital, Adam found himself pacing in his office, staring at the phone in his hand. He had a choice to make. He could continue on this path, keeping his distance, maintaining his walls, or he could take a chance, trust Clara, and allow her into his world in a way he had never allowed anyone before. It was terrifying, but it also felt like the only way forward. Taking a deep breath, he dialed her number. When Clara answered, her voice was warm and comforting, as always. "Hey, Adam," she said. "What's up?" "I've been thinking a lot about us," Adam began, his voice hesitant. "About everything. I know I've been keeping things at arm's length, but the truth is, I'm not sure what I'm doing anymore. I don't know how to handle all of this. You've made me realize something I've been running from. And I need to say it. I'm ready to let you in. I'm ready to stop hiding behind my work and my charity, and finally deal with the things I've been avoiding." Clara was silent for a moment, and Adam's heart raced as he waited for her response. Was he making a mistake? He had never been this vulnerable with anyone before. Finally, she spoke. "Adam," she said softly, "I don't want you to think that you have to have everything figured out. I'm not expecting you to be perfect. I never was. But I've seen the way you care about the people around you, the way you carry your burdens, and I think it's time you let someone help carry them with you. I'm here, and I want to help. You don't have to do it all alone." Her words, simple yet profound, were like a weight lifting off Adam's chest. He didn't realize how much he needed to hear that, how much he needed to hear someone tell him it was okay to lean on others. He had spent so much of his life thinking that being strong meant doing everything himself, but Clara was showing him a different way. The next day, Adam met Clara at their usual cafe. This time, there was a new energy between them, a sense of something more than just casual friendship. As they sat down with their coffee, Adam couldn't help but feel a sense of peace he hadn't felt in years. I've been thinking about what you said, he said, looking at Clara. I've been so focused on fixing everyone else, on running my charity and helping others, that I forgot to help myself. I forgot to even take care of the person who matters most in all of this, me. Clara smiled, her eyes warm and understanding. It's okay to focus on yourself sometimes, Adam. You've given so much to others. You deserve to give yourself the same kindness. Adam nodded, feeling the truth of her words sink in. He didn't have all the answers, and maybe he never would. But for the first time in a long time, he wasn't afraid of facing the unknown. He didn't have to do it alone anymore. He had Clara. As they talked more, Adam realized something else, that it wasn't just Clara's support that mattered. It was her belief in him. She saw him in a way no one else did, not just as the doctor or the charity worker, but as Adam, a man who deserved love and happiness just like anyone else. And for the first time, he truly believed it. As the afternoon wore on, Adam felt a sense of clarity he hadn't felt in years. He didn't know where things would go with Clara, but he was ready to find out. He wasn't afraid anymore. It was time to take that first step into the unknown, to trust not just Clara, but himself. Thank you, he said softly, his voice full of gratitude. Thank you for seeing me, Clara, for making me believe that I deserve more. Clara's smile grew wider, and she reached across the table, placing her hand over his. You do, Adam. You do. As Adam walked out of the cafe later that day, he felt lighter, more at peace than he had in a long time. Maybe life wasn't about fixing everything or carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. Maybe it was about letting others in, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, and finding strength in the people who cared about you. As the weeks passed, Adam found himself growing more comfortable with the changes in his life. The connection with Clara, which had started out as a simple meeting over coffee, had blossomed into something deeper. Every time they met, whether it was for a walk through the park or a quiet dinner, Adam felt a little more like himself. The walls he had spent years building around his heart were slowly starting to come down, and Clara was the reason. She made him feel like he wasn't defined by his past, by his losses, or by his work. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he was just Adam, a man with flaws, with pain, but also with the possibility of happiness. But just as Adam was starting to embrace the idea of letting someone in, reality hit. He was still a doctor, still a man with responsibilities that stretched far beyond himself. His charity work, the people he helped, the clinic he ran, it was all a part of who he was. And yet, he began to feel like something was missing. Despite the progress he had made, there was still this nagging feeling that he wasn't doing enough, that he wasn't fully living in the moment, that there was something holding him back. One afternoon, Adam found himself at the hospital, working late again. He had just finished a long surgery when his assistant, Claire, approached him with a message. Dr. Ellis, there's a meeting tomorrow with the board. They want to discuss the future of the charity, especially the funding and some new projects they're proposing. It's going to be a big one. Adam's heart sank. Another meeting, another responsibility to juggle. He had been so focused on the personal changes in his life that he had almost forgotten about the weight of his professional commitments. He nodded, trying to push down the growing sense of stress. Thanks, Claire. I'll be there, Adam said, rubbing his temples. The thought of yet another meeting with the board, with all the pressure to keep things running smoothly, made him feel overwhelmed. The weight of it all seemed heavier than ever. Clara had been a source of light in his life, but here he was, back in the grind of his demanding career, wondering if he could ever truly balance both. The next day, Adam arrived at the boardroom early, his mind racing with the concerns about his charity's future. The room was large, filled with people in sharp suits, all talking business, their voices low and serious. Adam took his seat at the head of the table, trying to steady his nerves. As the meeting began, the discussions turned to new initiatives, funding proposals, and the pressure to deliver results. Adam felt the familiar weight of responsibility on his shoulders, but this time, it felt different. Clara's words echoed in his mind. You deserve to be happy too. He cleared his throat, interrupting the conversation. Before we continue, Adam said, his voice steady but firm, I think we need to address the long-term vision of the foundation. We've been focused so much on the day-to-day operations that we've lost sight of what we're really trying to achieve. We need to make sure we're not just helping people on a surface level. We need to create lasting change. The room went quiet, and all eyes turned to him. It wasn't a typical response from Adam. He was usually the one who focused on the logistics, the practicalities, the numbers. But today, something inside him had shifted. He wasn't just a doctor. He was someone who wanted more from life, someone who was no longer willing to sacrifice his happiness for the sake of duty. As the meeting continued, Adam found himself more engaged than he had been in months. He spoke up more, challenging the board members to think outside the box, to focus on the deeper needs of the community they served. For the first time, he felt like he was working not just for the sake of the charity, but for the sake of the people he truly cared about, the ones he had been neglecting, including himself. That evening, after the meeting, Adam called Clara. He needed to talk to her. It had been a busy day, filled with pressure and stress, but now, as he sat in his office, he realized how much he needed her. He dialed her number, his fingers trembling slightly. When she answered, her voice was warm and familiar. "Hey Adam," she said. "How did the meeting go?" Adam smiled, leaning back in his chair. "It actually went better than I thought. I spoke up for once. I think I'm starting to find my voice again. I don't just want to help people. I want to make a real impact." Clara's voice softened. "I'm proud of you, Adam. You're starting to see it, aren't you? You can do both, help others and take care of yourself. You don't have to choose." Adam's heart swelled with gratitude. He had been so focused on balancing his responsibilities that he had almost forgotten the most important thing, finding a way to live a life that felt whole, a life where he didn't have to sacrifice his own happiness for the sake of others. "I think I'm finally starting to get it," Adam said softly. "I've been so afraid of letting go, of taking the time for myself, but you've shown me that I don't have to be afraid. I can have both. I can have purpose and happiness, and I'm ready to start living that way." Clara's words were gentle, but full of meaning. "That's the first step, Adam. The rest will follow." As Adam hung up the phone that night, he felt a sense of peace settle over him. For the first time in a long time, he was no longer weighed down by the burden of his responsibilities. He wasn't just living for others anymore. He was living for himself too. And with Clara by his side, he was ready to face whatever came next. In the weeks that followed, Adam felt a new sense of purpose taking shape. It wasn't just about the work anymore, or the expectations he had placed on himself for so long. He was beginning to realize that life wasn't just about doing for others. It was about finding balance, about taking care of himself in the process. Clara's words had stuck with him. "You deserve to be happy too." They echoed in his mind, reminding him every day that he didn't have to sacrifice his well-being for the sake of duty. And for the first time in a long time, he truly believed it. Their relationship had continued to grow. Clara was still there, supporting him, offering her kindness and wisdom. But there was something else now, something deeper. Adam was beginning to see her not just as a friend, but as someone who had become indispensable in his life. Her presence was grounding, and every time they spent time together, Adam felt a shift inside him. He realized he was not just helping others, but allowing himself to be helped. He didn't need to fix everything on his own anymore. One evening, after a long day at the hospital, Adam found himself sitting in his apartment, staring out at the city skyline. The lights of the city flickered in the distance, and he felt the weight of the quiet. It was the kind of silence that used to overwhelm him, but now, it felt oddly comforting. His phone buzzed on the coffee table. It was a message from Clara. "K, are you free tomorrow? I was thinking we could grab lunch." Adam smiled as he read the message. She always knew when to check in, when to give him space, and when to reach out. The next day, they met for lunch at a small cafe, tucked away from the bustling streets of the city. Clara greeted him with a warm smile as she sat down across from him, her eyes full of curiosity, but also understanding. Adam felt his nerves settle as he saw her, someone who had become a constant in his life, someone he didn't have to pretend with. "How's everything going?" Clara asked, her voice light, but filled with genuine care. Adam paused for a moment, considering the question. For a brief second, he wanted to say everything was fine, but that wasn't true. There was still work to be done, still personal battles to fight. But there was something different now. He wasn't fighting them alone. He had Clara. "It's been good," he said finally, a smile tugging at his lips. "It's different. I'm still figuring things out, but I'm not as weighed down as I used to be. I think I'm learning how to take things one step at a time." Clara smiled, nodding in understanding. "That's all anyone can really do. I'm proud of you, Adam." You're not just doing what's expected of you anymore. You're living for yourself too. Adam's heart warmed at her words. He had come a long way from the man who used to hide behind his responsibilities, the man who was constantly running on empty. He had learned to be present, to allow himself to feel things he had buried for so long. And that wasn't just because of the work he had done. It was because of Clara's unwavering support, her belief in him. I don't know where I'd be without you, Adam admitted, his voice soft but sincere. You've helped me more than you know. Clara's smile softened, her eyes bright with affection. You're stronger than you realize, Adam. You just needed someone to remind you of that. They finished their lunch, talking about everything and nothing, about the small moments in life, about their favorite places in the city, and about the future. The weight of the world didn't feel so heavy anymore, not with Clara by his side. As they said goodbye outside the cafe, Clara gave him a reassuring hug. Remember, Adam, she said, pulling back to look him in the eyes. You don't have to have all the answers right now. It's okay to take your time. And no matter what, I'm here. Adam watched her walk away, feeling a sense of calm wash over him. For the first time, he wasn't thinking about the next project or the next crisis. He was simply appreciating the moment, appreciating the fact that he had found someone who truly understood him. Clara wasn't just helping him heal. She was teaching him how to live again. As Adam walked back to his apartment, he felt a sense of peace that had eluded him for so long. There was still work to be done, still a future to build, but he wasn't carrying the weight alone anymore. And for that, he was grateful. It had been months since Adam had begun to embrace the changes in his life, and with each passing day, he felt more at peace with the direction things were going. His relationship with Clara had deepened into something meaningful and real. She had become his anchor, the one person who reminded him that life was not just about work and responsibilities. It was also about connection, about allowing himself to experience joy and vulnerability again. Clara had taught him that it was okay to not have all the answers, and that sometimes, simply being present with someone could be enough. One evening, as Adam walked out of the hospital after a long shift, he found himself thinking about Clara more than usual. It wasn't just her kindness or her ability to make him feel understood. It was the way she made him feel hopeful. He had started to imagine a future, one that wasn't defined by his past losses or his career. For the first time in a long time, he saw a life beyond the walls of his hospital and charity work. He saw a life that could include Clara, a life where he didn't have to carry the weight of everything on his own. Adam reached for his phone, his fingers hesitating before he typed out a message to Clara. Hey, I know this might sound a little forward, but I've been thinking about something. How would you feel about making things official? Not just the kind of friendship we've had, but something more. His heart raced as he stared at the screen, reading the message again before pressing send. He had never been one to put himself out there so openly, but he realized that he had to take the next step if he wanted to fully embrace the life he had started to build. The message was out, and now, all he could do was wait. Clara's reply came swiftly, a simple, "I'd like that. Let's talk tomorrow." Adam couldn't help the smile that spread across his face. It was a small step, but it felt like the beginning of something significant. For so long, he had been afraid of moving forward, of letting someone else in. But Clara had shown him that it wasn't about fear. It was about trust, about believing in the possibility of happiness even when things were uncertain. The next day, they met at a park, the golden sunlight filtering through the trees, creating a warm and peaceful atmosphere. Adam could feel his heart pounding in his chest as he waited for Clara. She arrived a few minutes later, her eyes searching for him in the crowd. When she saw him, she smiled, and Adam's nerves eased a little. Clara walked over to him, her steps light, and as she reached him, she stopped and looked into his eyes. "So," she said softly, "I guess we're taking this step together." Adam nodded, feeling a wave of emotion wash over him. "Yeah, we are. I've been scared to make this move, but I think it's time." He paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. "Clara, you've changed my life in ways I can't even explain. I've spent so long thinking I had to do everything on my own, but with you, I realize I don't have to. I want to be with you. I want us to build something together." Clara's expression softened, and her eyes glistened with emotion. "I felt the same way, Adam. I never thought I'd meet someone who could make me feel like this. Like I could be real, be myself, without pretending. You've made me see that I'm worthy of more, just like you are." I'm ready for this, for us. As they stood there in the park, surrounded by the calm and peaceful environment, it felt like everything had shifted. It wasn't just about the work or the charity or the expectations anymore. It was about Adam and Clara, two people who had found each other at the right time, two people who were ready to build a life together. They shared a quiet moment, just holding each other, letting the weight of the world fall away. Adam realized then that this was the beginning of something new, something real. And for the first time in a long time, he was excited about the future. Let's do this, Adam said softly, his voice filled with hope. Clara smiled, leaning in to kiss him gently on the lips. Together, she whispered. As they pulled away, Adam felt an overwhelming sense of peace. He had taken the leap, and now, there was nothing left to do but live in the moment, with Clara by his side, ready for whatever came next. As time passed, Adam and Clara's relationship blossomed into something they both hadn't expected, yet both desperately needed. Adam found himself more balanced, more at peace than he had ever been. The weight of his responsibilities was still there, but it no longer consumed him. Clara had shown him that there was more to life than just giving to others. Sometimes, it was necessary to take the time to care for yourself and allow others to care for you. In Clara, Adam had found not just a partner, but someone who understood him in ways he never thought possible. She gave him space when he needed it and offered him the warmth of her support when he was ready to accept it. Their days together became filled with small moments of joy. They cooked dinner together, shared stories from their pasts, and laughed about the little things that made life so unpredictable. Adam had never been someone to let go of control, but with Clara, he felt like he could be himself, vulnerable and open. He didn't have to be the perfect doctor, the perfect charity leader. With her, he could just be Adam, a man learning to live again. It wasn't long before Adam made another decision that would change everything. He had always told himself that his purpose was to heal others, to be the hero in someone else's story. But with Clara by his side, he realized that his purpose didn't just lie in helping others. It was also about creating a life where he could truly feel alive, a life where he could share his experiences with someone who cared just as deeply as he did. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, Adam turned to Clara, his heart pounding with something more than just affection. He had been carrying this thought for some time, unsure of how to express it, but now, in the quiet of their home, he felt ready. Clara, he began, his voice filled with emotion. There's something I've been thinking about for a while. You've helped me realize so much about myself, about how to live with intention. And I don't want to waste another moment. I want to spend my life with you. Not just as a partner, but as someone who is with me through everything. I want to build a future with you, one that's not just about fixing the world, but about enjoying the journey together. Clara's eyes softened as she looked at him, her heart swelling with love. She had always known that Adam was special, but now, as he spoke those words, she realized how deeply he had changed, how deeply they had both changed. I've always known that this, what we have, is something unique, she said softly. I never imagined I could feel this loved, this understood. You make me feel like I'm enough, Adam, like I don't have to pretend. I've never wanted anything more than to be with you. With a smile, Adam reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. He had been waiting for the perfect moment, and this felt right. He opened the box, revealing a simple, elegant ring. It wasn't extravagant, but it was meaningful, a symbol of the future they would create together. Clara, he said, his voice steady but full of emotion, will you marry me? Clara's breath caught in her throat as she looked at the ring, then back at Adam. She had never expected this moment to come so soon, but as she looked into his eyes, she realized that it was exactly what she wanted. She had found her home in him, and she was ready to say yes. Yes, she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. Yes, Adam, I will. As Adam slipped the ring on her finger, the world outside seemed to fade away. In that moment, there was nothing but the two of them. Two people who had found each other against the odds, who had learned to embrace love and vulnerability, and who were ready to take on whatever life had to offer, together. They embraced, their hearts beating in sync, and Adam knew, without a doubt, that this was only the beginning of their journey. The future was no longer something to be feared or avoided. It was something to be embraced with open arms, because with Clara by his side, he knew they could face anything. And for the first time in years, Adam felt truly at home.